In July 2023, the entertainment industry was rocked by headlines surrounding pop star Ariana Grande and actor Ethan Slater. The two met on the set of the film adaptation of Wicked in London. At the time the news broke, Grande had recently separated from her husband, Dalton Gomez, while Slater was still legally married to his high school sweetheart, Lily J. Lily J had given birth to their first child, a baby boy, just 11 months before the romance became public. The timeline of their relationship, combined with the presence of a newborn and the breakdown of a marriage, triggered immense public backlash. Grande was widely labeled a homewrecker in tabloids and across social media, while Slater faced intense criticism for allegedly abandoning his young family. While this modern scandal may have felt unprecedented to contemporary audiences, it was almost an exact blueprint of one of Hollywood's most notorious mid-20th century sagas. Decades before the digital era, classic Hollywood witnessed an almost identical dynamic involving actress Elizabeth Taylor, singer Eddie Fisher, and actress Debbie Reynolds. To understand the magnitude of the 1958 scandal, one must examine the status of the individuals involved within the mid-20th century studio system. Debbie Reynolds was known as America's sweetheart. Having starred in classic films such as Singing in the Rain, 1952, Reynolds cultivated a wholesome, relatable image that moviegoers adored. In September 1955, she married Eddie Fisher, who was one of the most successful pop vocalists of the decade. Together, Reynolds and Fisher were portrayed as Hollywood's ideal fairy tale couple. Elizabeth Taylor, on the other hand, was an international icon of beauty and dramatic talent. Having transitioned from a child star in National Velvet, 1944, to a critically acclaimed adult actress in films such as A Place in the Sun, 1951, and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, 1958, Taylor possessed an aura of glamorous sophistication and emotional intensity. Unlike Reynolds' wholesome girl-next-door persona, Taylor was often portrayed as a captivating and complex figure. A crucial element that magnified the scandal was the personal history between Debbie Reynolds and Elizabeth Taylor. Their connection was not merely professional. It dated back to their teenage years. Over the years, their friendship endured. When Debbie Reynolds married Eddie Fisher in 1955, Elizabeth Taylor served as the matron of honor, while Taylor's then-husband, producer Mike Todd, served as Fisher's best man. This deep personal bond created a strong foundation of trust between Reynolds and Taylor, making the subsequent betrayal all the more devastating in the eyes of both Reynolds and the public. The trajectory of all three lives changed on March 22, 1958. Elizabeth Taylor's third husband, the charismatic film producer Mike Todd, died tragically in a plane crash in New Mexico aboard his private aircraft, the Lucky Liz. Taylor, who was originally scheduled to be on the flight, stayed behind in California because she was suffering from a severe cold. Todd's death plunged the 26-year-old Taylor into deep grief. As Todd's closest friend, Eddie Fisher immediately stepped in to console the grieving widow. Initially, Debbie Reynolds supported her husband's involvement, encouraging Fisher to visit Taylor and help her through the funeral arrangements and the emotional aftermath of Todd's death. However, as days turned into weeks, Fisher's role as a source of comfort gradually evolved into a romantic relationship. Fisher began spending nights away from the home he shared with Reynolds, traveling frequently to New York and Las Vegas under the pretext of helping Taylor. Reynolds grew suspicious when Fisher stopped calling home and could often be reached at Taylor's hotel suite. The situation exploded in September 1958, when the affair became impossible to ignore for the press and the public. The timing was particularly controversial because of the state of Fisher's domestic life with Debbie Reynolds. Reynolds and Fisher had two very young children at the time. Their first child, Carrie Fisher, who would later gain international fame as Princess Leia in Star Wars, was born in October 1956. Their second child, Todd Fisher, was born in February 1958, just 1 month before Mike Todd's death and only about 6 months before the affair became public. The image of Eddie Fisher leaving his wife, who had recently given birth to their second child, to pursue a relationship with his late best friend's widow sparked widespread outrage. Taylor was quickly branded by prominent gossip columnists, particularly Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons, as a homewrecker, and was subjected to intense public criticism. Unlike modern public relations crises, which are often managed through carefully prepared statements, Elizabeth Taylor responded to the media frenzy with strikingly candid remarks. When questioned by reporters and gossip columnists about her role in the breakdown of the Fisher-Reynolds marriage, Taylor showed little public sympathy for Reynolds. When Hedda Hopper confronted Taylor about the affair and its effect on Reynolds, Taylor reportedly defended her actions, saying, "Eddie's not in love with Debbie and never has been. You can't break up a happy marriage. Debbie and Eddie's never was." In another exchange concerning the public backlash and her emotional state following Mike Todd's death, Taylor reportedly told reporters, "What do you expect me to do? Sleep alone?" She also reportedly remarked during interviews around that period, "Mike is dead and I'm alive. What am I supposed to do? Be a widow for the rest of my life?" The reaction from the American public was swift and severe. Fan clubs devoted to Elizabeth Taylor and Eddie Fisher reportedly disbanded, while mail centers received large numbers of letters condemning the couple's behavior. Targeting Elizabeth Taylor. Some women's groups organized boycotts of Taylor's films, while certain theater exhibitors expressed concern about showing her movies because of the possibility of protests. Taylor's public image suffered considerably, particularly among audiences who viewed her relationship with Fisher as a betrayal of Reynolds and traditional family values. Targeting Eddie Fisher. Fisher also suffered significant professional consequences. His popularity declined, and his career was damaged by the scandal. His television career was particularly affected, with The Eddie Fisher Show ending in 1959. Support for Debbie Reynolds. Meanwhile, public sympathy rallied strongly behind Debbie Reynolds. She was portrayed as the dignified, wronged wife and devoted mother. Photographers frequently followed her, and images of Reynolds caring for her young children helped strengthen the public's sympathy for her. Despite the intense hostility surrounding the scandal, Fisher divorced Reynolds in early 1959. On May 12, 1959, Fisher and Taylor married at a synagogue in Las Vegas, the same day Fisher's divorce from Reynolds was finalized. However, the marriage between Elizabeth Taylor and Eddie Fisher was brief and volatile, lasting less than 5 years. Fisher effectively put his own career on hold to serve as Taylor's companion and assistant, accompanying her to film sets around the world. In 1960, Taylor signed a record-breaking $1 million contract to star in 20th Century Fox's historical epic Cleopatra, which was filmed primarily in Rome. During the troubled and protracted production in 1962, Taylor met Welsh actor Richard Burton, who had been cast as Mark Antony. Like Taylor and Fisher before them, both Taylor and Burton were married to other people at the time. Burton was married to Sybil Williams. History seemed to repeat itself on an even grander scale. Taylor and Burton began a highly publicized affair on the set, with paparazzi closely following their every move. Eddie Fisher was left behind in Rome, facing the painful public humiliation of being replaced by the very man for whom Taylor would eventually leave him. Taylor divorced Fisher in March 1964 and married Richard Burton just 9 days later. The scandal had a devastating effect on Eddie Fisher's career. Before 1958, he had been one of the most successful recording artists and entertainers in North America. After leaving Debbie Reynolds and becoming involved with Elizabeth Taylor, Fisher's career never returned to its former level of prominence. 1. Loss of television and recording opportunities. After his NBC variety show was canceled, Fisher found fewer opportunities on network television. His musical style also struggled to remain relevant as rock and roll transformed the popular music landscape, and his record sales declined throughout the 1960s. 2. Financial and personal struggles. Fisher experienced financial difficulties and struggled with substance abuse, including long-term dependence on prescription drugs and other substances. 3. A complicated legacy. Rather than being remembered primarily as one of the leading crooners of the 1950s, Fisher's legacy became inextricably linked to the notorious love triangle involving himself, Debbie Reynolds, and Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor's career followed a very different path. Although her personal life attracted intense criticism in 1958 and 1959, her immense star power and acting ability remained largely intact. In fact, Taylor won her first Academy Award for Best Actress for her performance in Butterfield 8, 1960. Later in life, Taylor and Debbie Reynolds made peace and eventually rekindled their friendship. The two women even poked fun at their shared history when they co-starred in the 2001 television film These Old Broads, which was written by Reynolds' daughter, Carrie Fisher. While Eddie Fisher's career declined significantly, Debbie Reynolds benefited from an enormous wave of public sympathy that helped strengthen her status as a beloved Hollywood star. In the years following the scandal, Reynolds continued to enjoy success in music and film. She later received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress for her performance in the 1964 musical The Unsinkable Molly Brown. Reynolds went on to build a remarkably long career, appearing in Las Vegas Revue's Broadway productions, including a Tony-nominated performance in Irene and numerous television roles. She remained active in entertainment for decades and ultimately became remembered not simply as the woman at the center of a famous Hollywood scandal, but as an enduring symbol of resilience and longevity in show business.